rainy day outside. We're going to have another video celebrating RBT where Paul Blackham is going to speak on that first question, that most important of questions. So I think really you just want to get on with listening to Paul. So I'll just press the button and off he goes.
Reading the Bible together over these years, that big first question, what do I learn about Jesus? That is the question that changes everything and makes all the difference in the world. Because there's lots of things that people think are the most important thing. And there's loads of books written about what is the central theme of the Bible. What's the big idea, the big story that holds it all together? And I know, like, we just go, well, it's Jesus, innit? From the first page to the last page, it's just all about Jesus. And, in every story is ultimately about him, teaching us who he is, what he's done, why you can trust him, why you can call out to him for help. It's just all about Jesus. But all these books and lectures and concepts, some of them think, oh, it's righteousness. Righteousness is the big idea of the Bible, or justice, or like God's kingdom. And it's always God's kingdom, or God, just the concept of God. But if I can be a little bit controversial, even people who say, well, we've got to be God-centered, that isn't good enough, because what does the word God mean? I mean, I suppose there's some people who've hung around in sort of spiritual circles and they think of God as just a kind of bundle of good intentions and loving fuzzy feelings or something. I don't know. But I think a lot of people just think of God, if there is such a thing, as some, a very powerful being who's very difficult to deal with, very, quite judgmental, always watching to see if you've done anything wrong and then being really angry if you've done anything wrong, and sort of you don't dare do anything with that God. It's best to stay away from God. What use is God in that sense? And I know that sounds like bad, but I'm just saying that's what people feel and think very often about God. So when people say, oh, the big idea of the Bible is God, I'm like, no, I know they mean well, but it just isn't good enough to say that, because it all depends what God you've got in mind. What is the God you're worshipping? And think about those Pharisees who read the Bible, but they thought the Bible was about a harsh master who made heavy demands on people. And so Jesus tells stories to hit them with that idea. And so for them, they think, oh, what the Bible is telling us all the things we should do to be right and to get on the good side of God. And you remember Jesus says, look, I can see that you study it very, very diligently, but you need to just come to me to get life. I'll give you life, because the scriptures are just about me. I love that. It's one of my favourite bits of the Bible. And what the difference is that, you see, Jesus, sometimes people say to me, do you believe in God? I always say, no, not really. I believe in Jesus. And when I look at Jesus and he walks on water, controls the weather, raises the dead, feeds the hungry, answers all the questions, raises himself back up from death and ascends into the highest heaven, that kind of looks like God to me. So whatever that looks like God. So I believe in him, and I think that is God. But just God in general, now I don't really believe in that, but I believe in Jesus. I think he's God. But everything else, I can't believe it. And when you read the Bible, thinking of Jesus, suddenly the idea of God becomes very attractive, something wonderful. Because think about it, right from the beginning, Adam and Eve, they do this, perhaps the worst sin ever, to just what they do, and they betray the Lord God. And then Jesus rolls up. What does he do? To kill them? No. He's looking for them, gently trying to help them to face up to what they've done. He's reaching out to them. Then he clothes them, prepares them, gives them hope. Amazing. He's always like that. Jacob, this complicated wrestling guy, and then he comes and wrestles with him through the night to connect to him. Or Moses and the way he leads and carries and saves and feeds and explains and I love the thing where it says Jesus carried his people out of Egypt. Or there's that lovely bit, isn't there, where Elijah is absolutely depressed and exhausted, and he's in a right old mess. Jesus arrives, the angel of the Lord, cooks him some food, tells him to have a sleep. He doesn't even bother talking to him about the things he needs to think about and do, or he's just, no, have a rest, have something to eat. Isn't that lovely? That's God. If you think about, when you know that Jesus is God, that's what it's like. And then, of course, he gives him some more food when Elijah wakes up. He gives him some more rest. And then at the end of that, he doesn't say, well, look, I can see that you've been depressed. Let's just forget it. He actually stands him up and gets him going over this course of days and ends up giving him a whole new kind of work to do. And anyway, or think of Isaiah. The king, when kings have been dying through his life, and how can Isaiah cope with that? Well, Jesus appears to him as the king, surrounded by angels, so gently dealing with him, and then shakes him up and addresses him about what he's going to say. Or Daniel in the lion's den, and it says that Jesus shut the lions' mouths again, stood with him, his friends in the fiery furnace, all the way through. If Jesus is God, we can believe in that God. And when you read the Bible that way, look at Jesus in the Gospels. Anyone who can come to him and say, Jesus, Son of David, have mercy on me. And when anybody approaches him that way, he's so lovely and helpful and powerful. And he gets to their real issues and rescues them and gives them help over and over again. Who wouldn't approach the Jesus of the Gospels? Well, you wouldn't, I suppose, if you are set against him. But if you need help, you'll go to him, won't you? So that's what's so wonderful when we do RBT, reading the Bible together, focusing on Jesus, because then all the way through the Bible, we see the real and living God and how wonderful he is, how helpful, how gracious, how kind. It's amazing. Just that is, for me, the winner. That first question. All of them are good, and they're all the questions the Bible wants us to ask. But that one opening question doesn't just change the way we read the Bible, it changes the way we live